Good evening, everyone, and welcome to this August 15th session of Quispamsis Council 2023. I am looking for an approval of the agenda, please. Moved by Councillor Donovan, seconded by Deputy Mayor Schreier. On the question, please vote now. Motion carried 7-0. I have a few comments this evening. First of all, I'd like to congratulate Craig Thorne on the gold medal performance of the Canadian Track and Field Championship in Langley, BC. Craig won gold in the 110-meter hurdles with a time of 13.59 seconds. He is a Quispamsis native and a graduate of KV High School, and now has his sights set on qualifying for the 2024 Canadian Olympic team. Congratulations to Craig, and thank you for representing our community with such pride. So thank you to Craig Thorne for that. Also, I would like to remind you that Pride Parade in St. John took place last week and was very successful. I would ask that we remember to make sure that we have our civic numbers posted so that in the event of an emergency, your house will be found and the emergency caretakers will be there as they should. Today is also the Acadian anniversary, so bon fête l'Acadie. A reminder that school will return before our next council meeting. And with that, of course, the streets are filled with more cars, more buses, more students, more people walking kids to and from school. So we just ask that drivers be aware and that we take a little more care, that we obey these signs for speed. When it says 30, it's not a suggestion. We'd like you to go 30, and when it's 50 on the main drags, then you do your 50. Let's see. Also, we have visiting with us this week, Madison Malone from Hockey Canada. She's visiting to check out the Qplex and to make sure that everything that will be needed for the Para Championship game in December is all in place. So the Para Championships are coming to Quispamsis at the Qplex, and these are world-renowned players. So we have 4 teams coming, and it will be sometime, I believe, between the 3rd and the 9th of December, and it is going to be an event that you will not want to miss. So we're happy to have Madison here this week, and so far she has given our Qplex a quadruple thumbs up. I'd like to go now to the treaty acknowledgement and moment of reflection with Councillor Luck, please.
Thank you. I would like to respectfully acknowledge that Quispamsis exists on the traditional territory of the Wolastoqiyik, Maliseet, and Micmac people, whose ancestors, along with the Passamaquoddy tribes, signed peace and friendship treaties with the British Crown in the 1700s. We would like to take this moment to pay respect to the elders, past and present, and the descendants of this traditional territory. And may we remind ourselves of the important work we have before us tonight. May we make good decisions without prejudice or bias, and always in the best interest of our community, which we are here to serve.
Thank you, Councillor Luck. On to the next item, disclosure of interests. If there are any, please signify now. There are none. On to presentations. This evening we have a very special guest with us, a 4-legged guest. His name is Spencer. And Spencer's quest now comes to the town hall here in Quispamsis. We have in attendance Spencer and his humans, Conrad and Sally. And I'd like to tell you a little bit about Spencer. Spencer the dog is 12 years old. He's a Dachshund Cross. He went for a walk with his humans, Conrad and Sally Brock, on New Year's Day. This would mark the beginning of Spencer's quest, a plan to have Spencer walk every single street in Quispamsis. So, the Brocks connected with our planning technologist, Chrissy Scott, at the town of Quispamsis and received the most up-to-date road mapping of our community. They crossed off each new street as they walked. On New Brunswick Day, August the 7th, more than 7 months after he started, Spencer completed his quest with a stroll along a part of the Quispamsis Road. He was joined by several other four-legged friends and had the support of the Elder St. John Dog, the organization that matched Spencer with the Brocs. They kept some interesting statistics, these Brocs. These owners were pretty smart, or at least so Spencer thinks, on what they saw and what they experienced along the way. And Spencer tells me that this is what they found. They walked 372 streets, including 10 on one day in April. Over 516,000 human steps, a number that would be in the millions for a walking dog, and a little dog like Spencer. They walked 311 kilometers. They met 585 dogs. They saw 186 deer. Spencer stopped to say hello to 73 garden gnomes. He winked at 64 cats. He listened to the ducks quack. There were 27 of them. He came across 8 urban chickens. He saw 2 rabbits, 2 squirrels, 1 field mouse, and 1 robot lawnmower. Spencer's quest was documented on Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube. He was featured in a television news story in late July. The quest is a reminder of the importance of an active lifestyle for people and pets. I hope it inspires others to explore our community through sidewalks, parks, trails, and more. On behalf of Town Council, the town of Quispamsis, I would like to congratulate Spencer. Have some gifts to mark this special occasion.
Oh, Spencer, get the picture. Pick him up.
Oh, they'll be at it all the time. Thank you. Thanks for being here this evening.
Going out for a walk?
Next, we have the Kennebecasis Regional Police Force, the Traffic Services 6-month report. With us this evening, we have Police Chief Steve Gordeau, Sergeant Evan Scott, and Inspector Annika Becker. Welcome this evening.
Good evening, Your Worship, Deputy Mayor and Council. The acting Deputy Chief Becker is with us tonight. She'll present to you a snippet of an initiative that we have involving a criminal analyst who's doing some work for us to really dig very, very deep into our statistics in relations to traffic issues in the Valley for the past 5 years. So she'll talk about that in a little bit. And this particular traffic report was prepared by Sergeant Scott. I'm sure most of you know Sergeant Scott is our resident expert on traffic matters, so there's no way I was going to come here tonight and answer traffic questions without him at my side. I'm sure you've had a chance to look at the report. I wasn't looking to come and speak to each of the pages of the report. I would rather, if it's okay with you, to allow Sergeant Scott to just speak very briefly of the report and perhaps entertain some questions if you have some specific issues with or questions about some of the graphs that are in there.
Yeah, great, thank you very much. The report, I feel, is a good report. With statistical information, it's very objective in nature. So some of the stats that we're able to calculate and collect over the last number of years, it's really hard to, I guess, justify and explain where some of them come from and where they're the result of some of them. But our basis in our focus in traffic safety is what we call the fatal four, which are the main four causal factors of major injury and fatality collisions, which is impaired driving, distracted driving, lack of seatbelt use, and speed-related collisions. So with everything else that we do, that is our primary focus. We've seen an increase between 2021 and 22 of impaired driving of about 45%, which is a significant jump. And some people may wonder why the jump. Well, we're making a more of a concentrated effort to detect and apprehend impaired drivers 24 hours, 7 days a week. With road checks, spot checks, doing random breath sampling, we are increasing the numbers that we're getting. Rather than an officer going out and just driving around doing his patrols looking for an impaired driver is like looking for something you may or may not find. It's like fishing with one fishing rod and one hook. You may get something, you may not. By setting up road checks, we're casting a wide net and we're allowing them to come to us. So rather than aimlessly looking for them, we're setting up in strategic locations in order to apprehend them, and our numbers are increasing. We've got increasing numbers in other areas as well. Collisions, they vary in their numbers, and the factors could vary between the seasons. Are there more cars in the road during the winter season compared to the summer season, and things of that nature? So those are hard to predict. We're looking at more objective data rather than subjective data when it comes to investigating traffic-related complaints. We're utilizing a pilot project between us and NB Power now called Safer Cities program, and which allows us to install both traffic counters and cameras on top of the light fixtures throughout the roadways. There is a plug on the top that we can have NB Power attach these devices. They will not only count the number of vehicles, they will provide speed data on the vehicles as well, based on 2 weeks, the initial week, the prior week, and provide data as to when the best times for enforcement is. So what we're doing is we're deploying our resources where and when they're required rather than not. So more of an educated program as to where and when that we're going to conduct these operations. And I believe the chief has a copy that he's setting out. This is an 8-page report that I get on 3 traffic cameras that I have now. And the program is in infancy. So the reason we've got 3 cameras now is because that's part of the pilot project. They allow us 3 cameras and through NB Power, and if we want them moved, they will move them on our behalf. So we'll go into certain areas where we have complaints, and that will allow us to make a determination whether the complaint is justified or not. And if it is, deploy our resources. When we come to a lot of traffic-related issues and complaints, subjectivity plays a big part in it, because when somebody looks at a vehicle, it's their interpretation of how fast it's going. and thus making complaints, whether it be in a neighborhood or on the highway. Case in point, last week we had a complaint on one of the streets which has generated a larger number of speed-related complaints over the last number of years. Plate was given, description of the car was given, it all matched. When the officer went to speak to the driver of the vehicle, it was a woman in her late 80s, and she was the only driver of the car, and she was adamant she was not doing the 80+ kilometers an hour that the complainant complained about. So that's where subjectivity comes in, and this type of program allows us to make the determination whether it's valid or not, and continue with our investigations. Any questions on the report itself?
Thank you. Councillor Donovan.
Thank you. I don't have a question, but I did have a comment, and I had noticed when I was reading that there's the Youth Traffic Initiative Program, and I just wanted to comment that I think that's an amazing idea for maybe the public that doesn't get a chance to see this. Basically, it's a program so when, from what I can understand while reading this, it's a program where teens or youth, if they get stopped on their first offense and they get a ticket, then they are provided an opportunity to go to a program, I believe it's like a presentation, and they get to listen and sort of write an essay on, what they've done wrong and how they could improve and so on. And I think that's incredible. I'm not sure if that's an initiative done all over or if it's just around here, but I think that's wonderful, and I just wanted to commend you on that. So thank you very much.
Well, that's our initiative. Whether other agencies do it or not, I'm not really sure. It's been a program that's in place for 2 years now. And like you said, it's a first-time offender only. They receive a motor vehicle ticket with the caveat if they attend a educational presentation as well as write an essay as to how receiving a ticket could impact them in any way, shape, or form, whether it be at home through having to drive to work, or financially through insurance and things of that nature. And once they complete all the necessary steps and attend the program, that ticket is then voided. So it's an educational process, and through traffic services, it's traffic safety through education and enforcement. So we want to educate too, not just enforce all the time. So there's a fine line between both, and providing a positive step in their education and preparing them down the road, because we see so many people that just forget how they're supposed to drive.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor Scryer.
Yes, thank you very much for the report. It's very thorough, and I really enjoyed looking at it. I like how you've narrowed it down to the 4, because I know that you're busy with a lot of other infractions as well. I'm just curious that speeding is still the number one, as when you look at your chart. Speeding, there's more incidents of speeding than anything else. Not to say that drinking and driving isn't as important as speeding. I'm just pointing it out because, as you know, we get a lot of complaints about speeding in the neighborhoods, and we're going back to school and things are starting to ramp up, and we spend a tremendous amount of money on traffic calming measures in the town of Quispamsis. And I'm wondering do you take into effect the traffic calming measures that we put perhaps in a neighborhood when you're looking at the reduction of speed, and if they are in fact working in that neighborhood? Can you provide us with that data?
Well, I would specifically have to look at those areas and look at the data prior to and post. Traffic calming is the only mechanism which will effectively slow vehicles down. It's a permanent solution to an issue. Putting a police car there every once in a while will, slow them down while the car is there. But traffic calming is a device which has to slow the vehicle down in order to maneuver through the device, whether it be roundabout, pylons, speed berms, speed bumps, or anything like that. If you have a specific area that you want me to look at, I could definitely do that, both prior to and after. I know on there's Cedar Ridge Boulevard, or sorry, not Cedar Ridge, but Sorry?
Queensberry.
Queensberry, that's the word. Yeah, down in Queensberry, there's two. We've had numerous complaints in the Queensberry area. We've had traffic studies done. Town of Quispamsis has had traffic studies done. And we haven't seen a huge amount of data in support of vehicles exceeding the speed limit as portrayed by some of the residents, which I get back to being more subjectivity. And so allowing us to collect that data. But if that's an area that you want us to look at, I could definitely provide you stats on that.
We already know that on that particular street, we were receiving daily complaints, and on certain days, multiple complaints. And since a lot of those devices have been installed, it's pretty well come down to zero or very little complaints on that particular street. So we believe, and this is not data, not evidence-based, but just based on what we read every day, we're not seeing that street come up with speeding complaints like we were seeing over a year ago.
Thank you for that. It's just that when we invest the dollars, it's nice to know that we're getting a return on our investment. And if we're investing $150,000 on traffic calming in one particular neighborhood, we'd like to know that they have actually, the speed limit, or people have actually stopped speeding in that area. So thank you very much. Appreciate it.
But I will say the investment that you make in these traffic calming devices pays dividends in the long run because it effectively slows cars down. They've got no choice but to slow down and maneuver through or around the traffic calming devices. It's money well spent.
Thank you. Councillor Luck, please.
Thank you, Your Worship. Thank you very much for the report. It was very interesting to read. One of the things that was identified as one of the fatal four was impaired driving. And you did mention that between 2021 and 2022, there was a 45% increase. It's nice to see that right now the 6-month trend looks like it's going to be a little bit lower this year. And one of the, I guess, objectives is to continue to make our roads the safest in New Brunswick. And you'd mentioned enhancing collaboration with stakeholders. So I guess my question is, what does that look like in terms of, specifics around those collaborations? And also, if you peel back the onion, there's still way too many people driving impaired. And I'm wondering if you have any insights in terms of why in 2023 it's still as high as it is with so many different public safety initiatives. And I mean, it's just as shocking that it's still that high. So I'm wondering if you could speak to that as well. Thank you.
Well, basically, first of all, the Fatal Four is not something that we came up with. This is a national program which has studied the most common causal factors of major injury and fatality collisions. So, and they provided the data based on that, and it makes sense. Distracted driving now is almost as bad as impaired driving. It's one of the causal factors of many serious injury and fatal collisions. With respect to why people still drink and drive, I wish I knew, but they do. With the amount of educational program that we put in place, we were, the Kennebecasis Valley and the Kennebecasis Regional Police were the second municipalities in Canada to adopt the 911 program. York Regional Police adopted it first, and I happened to notice that, and I thought, what a great idea, because I sit on the board of directors for MAD. And we implemented that program within the valley, and now it has spread Canada-wide. If you suspect an impaired driver, call 911, because it is an emergency. Why people still drink and drive? Because one, they figure they can. Two, they figure they can get away with it. They don't feel that I've had 4 or 5 beers, I can drive. But with random breath testing now, we don't need suspicion of consumption. We don't need impairment. We can just randomly stop a car and ask them to provide a breath sample. And with the road checks, that's what we'll do. We'll set up a road check. Every 5th vehicle gets tested, unless somebody has indications that they've consumed alcohol in one way or another. So, but they still do it. And I've been doing this 42 years now, and nothing's changed. And I don't really think anything will change. But we just have to, it's a battle that we have to keep fighting, because it seriously injures and kills more people on our roadways. Every day, we're hearing something in the news about a collision which killed a number of people and the driver was impaired. Now, we're throwing drugs into the mixture, so we're training more officers as drug recognition experts, so they're able to detect not just alcohol, but through physical testing, determine whether there's drugs involved at the same time and make that determination, which we couldn't in the past. So to answer your question, I wish I knew. But I can't give you a straight answer as to why.
Thank you. That was a great answer. In 42 years, congratulations, and thank you for your service. On to Councillor Miller, please.
Thank you, Worship. Yeah, 43 years.
That's right.
Congratulations.
When I started, there was 12 of us.
I guess my question was, in the data and the information, and obviously adding 3 full-time officers half a year ago has helped with you were saying 24-hour traffic stops and stuff like that. My question is, and it's you talked about the pilot project with NB Power and that we have 3 cameras right now. When does this pilot project become no longer a pilot project, and could we foresee more than 3 cameras later on? I guess that's a question. Thanks.
Well, that is up to NB Power when they determine the pilot project has reached its end. And at that time, they'll provide a document to us with respect to costing for the devices, whether they're a leased option. I don't want to see us go into a contract where we're buying the infrastructure and 3 years later it's obsolete. So when I discussed it with them, I said, come up with an option, and it's a leased option, what it's going to cost to move it from location to location. The amount after the pilot project would be whatever you want to pay for. So it's really unlimited. The cameras, I've got 3 traffic counters now. I don't have a camera. I'm just waiting for them to free one up. The camera can be mounted as well and obtain vehicle information which could be pertinent to a crime that's committed. So if you had the cameras in strategic areas, say maybe the entrances to the municipalities, and if something happens, you can actually view the video and look for a suspected vehicle, as well as other options as well. So I don't have an answer, and they haven't given me when the project is going to come to a close.
Great. Thank you very much. Thank you for your presentation. I don't see any more questions. Councillor Olson, please.
You just wanted an opportunity, Your Worship, for our acting deputy chief to speak to this initiative that we put in place to dive even deeper than all of this here through evidence from our data.
My apologies.
No problem.
Acting
I won't
Deputy
take up
Chief.
too much of your time. Just a quick glimpse into our traffic safety focus under our strategic plan and the initiatives that we've created under that. So when we revised the plan in 2023, as your new inspector of operations, it was important for me to be able to stand up here and say that we've got some evidence-based proactive approaches that we can use, so that if you ask me, Annika, is there a problem on Hampton Road, I can say yes or no and have something to back that up with. And some of the things that Sergeant Scott talked about do to speak to the evidence-based piece, but to enhance that, we finally engaged the services of crime analysts. And this individual is specifically looking at traffic complaints and traffic data. So they'll look at the Safer Cities data, we'll look at all of our traffic complaints, look at our tickets, all of these items combined, and do a case analysis, see if there's links, see if there's trends, see if there's gaps, which very soon we expect to receive a detailed traffic analysis report with recommendations. And what that will do is, like Sergeant Scott touched on slightly, was the strategic deployment piece. So when the police officers leave the building, where are they going and why? Should they be on Godola Point Road between 3 o'clock and 4 o'clock because there's a speeding issue, or should they be at Campbell Drive and Mar Road because people aren't stopping at red lights? So all of this data combined is going to really inform where our people go and when, and have the most effective use of resources. And I just wanted to share that with you today to show that all this good work that Sergeant Scott's been doing is going to get even better here with time. It'll take a little time to show the evidence, like he had mentioned earlier. It'll take probably year 2, 3, and 4 before we can really show the difference that this is going to make, but it's going to be very valuable information. That's it.
Thank you very much. And certainly it's so interesting to have this data and this information so that our residents know that we continually improve what we're doing. And as we always say, when we know better, we do better. And that's what I see with our force. Councillor Olson.
Thank you, Your Worship. I'd just like to thank you all for the presentation this evening. Knowing that you're always improving the programs that service the area that you protect in that, I'm not surprised. I've seen you be the leader in almost everything that has been added to policing, whether it's carbines, use of carbines when necessary, the addition of cameras. We're one of the first police forces to have that, and very supportive of the community that you served, and very proud to have you here. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Olson. Councillor Donovan.
Thank you. I would move that Chief Gordo, Sergeant Scott, and Deputy Chief Becker be thanked for their presentation on traffic services, and that it be received and filed.
Thank you. It's been moved by Councillor Donovan, seconded by Councillor Bigger. On the question, please vote now. The vote's in? Yes, 7-0. Motion carried 7-0. Once again, thank you very much for being here this evening, and thank you for your service to our community.
Thank you.
Item 5C, Consumer Fireworks Usage and Safety, Town's current fire prevention bylaw attached. Number 1 is Danica Vautour, proposed fireworks usage safety bylaw establishing designated fireworks areas. Is Danica Vautour here? She couldn't make it. Okay, so the write-up is in your package. The request for a ban on consumer fireworks with presenters Leslie Rice and Robert Hunt. If you would like to come forward. Pardon me? Yes, okay. Good evening, Mr. Hunt. Good evening, Ms. Rice.
Your Worship and Council, my name is Robert Hunt, and it was my pleasure to stand before you 6 years ago to ask that Council consider revising the animal control bylaw. Council took action, and together we came up with a more balanced bylaw, and I thank you for that. I'm here to once again ask this Council to consider working with its residents to help improve the lives of all who live in Quispamsis, human and animal alike. While we all might enjoy fireworks, we may not be considering the negative impact they have. At its core, this issue comes down to weighing our desire to be entertained against the impact on the environment, wildlife, domestic animals, pets, and the well-being of combat veterans. We've known about these impacts for some time now, and perhaps this is the time to take action to remedy them. Fireworks harm the environment. Fireworks disperse harmful chemicals into the air, such as toxic or carcinogenic compounds containing lead, titanium, strontium, and copper. Recent research indicates that these can cause damage to lung tissue. Perchlorates are another compound contained in fireworks. Perchlorate contamination can interfere with thyroid gland function, and fireworks are listed as one of the main contributors of perchlorate contamination in ground and surface water. Climate change has increased the risk of wildfires, and given the disastrous wildfires Canada experienced this year alone, in fact, are ongoing, I believe, right now in Yellowknife, we should reconsider the risk fireworks add to this threat. Fireworks harm wildlife. Data shows an uptick in vehicle collisions with animals during and after fireworks use as panicked wildlife flee into roadways. The lights are shown to interfere with migratory species. Fireworks are also responsible for the death and injuries of horses and other livestock. Fireworks harm pets. The BCSPCA estimates that roughly 49% of dogs are afraid of loud noises such as fireworks. When frightened, dogs often act out of character, putting themselves and family members at risk. There have been instances of dogs killing themselves, jumping from windows or through glass doors to escape. Fireworks harm some veterans. Some combat veterans suffering from PTSD may be forced to relive their most painful trauma. For these reasons, I respectfully ask Council moves to ban the use of fireworks in Quispamsis. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Hunt. Anything further to add, Ms. Rice?
What I was going to read, he's pretty well summed it up, but I am going to read this. Fireworks hurt people. Fireworks hurt animals. Fireworks hurt the environment. Imagine for a moment that your child is autistic and fireworks cause them anxiety and distress, or that your father, grandfather, sister, or your brother is a veteran. My father was a veteran. And the sound of fireworks forced them to relive terrifying events over and over. Sorry, I just lost my father, so I'm a little emotional. Or that your parent suffers dementia and fireworks leave them in a state of confusion and fear. Imagine that your neighbor has lost everything due to house fires started by fireworks. Or that the stream behind your house, where your children used to splash and play, has been polluted by chemicals from fireworks. Or that your beloved family pet has run away in fear and is cold, scared, disoriented, and unable to find their way home. Now imagine for a moment that you have the power to prevent every single one of these scenarios from happening. Wait a minute, you do. I just want to bring up one thing that, you ban, I'm not going to say the word ban, but you have a quiet area zone when you have the parades for autistic children and for people with sensory hearing. Why not ban these fireworks? Even though not every autistic child or every veteran are afraid of fireworks, but 2 or 3 that may be are 2 or 3 too many. People want to see fireworks. I don't go to them, but St. John apparently puts on nice fireworks. Let them go in there. Let us have our peace and our quiet in our backyards. Let us not have to pick up fireworks that are being thrown in the debris into our backyards. I ask you, please, let's get this over with and ban fireworks. Let's follow Rosse. And I thank you very much for your time.
Thank you, Ms. Rice. Next, we have a representative, Jean-Marc Poirier, president of the franchise, and Belinda Hughes, director of operations of the Great Canadian Dollar Store, to speak on consumer fireworks. Welcome to the podium. Please give your name.
Jean-Marc Poirier, president of Great Canadian Dollar Store. First of all, I'm sorry to hear about your father. My deepest condolences. Your Worship, Deputy Mayor, and members of Council, as I mentioned, my name is Jean-Marc Poirier. I'm here representing Great Canadian Dollar Store. I'm also a resident. My family and I live in Quispamsis as well. I'd like to thank you for the opportunity, allowing me to present, to speak on the topic of consumer fireworks usage and safety. Great Canadian Dollar Store is a locally owned discount retailer, and our head office is actually located here in Quispamsis. We carry a wide variety of products in our store at affordable prices. One of our core values is providing our consumers the ability to pay less and get more. We do sell consumer fireworks in our stores, primarily including the cakes, Roman candles, and the sparklers. They'd be the smaller ones. Customers, in order to purchase fireworks, must be at least 18 years of age in order to purchase them. Fireworks they're a popular item, primarily in the summertime, and more specifically around holidays. They are a fun activity for friends and family. We understand that there are residents, that there are individuals who would like to have fireworks banned, and I completely respect that opinion. We understand that this is a topic where we will never please everyone. That being said, we truly believe that the majority of firework users are responsible people who follow the rules and regulations. We do not condone irresponsible use of fireworks. A concern that's being brought forward is that of potential property damage that can be caused by fireworks. If consumers follow the manufacturer's guidelines and safety measures, as well as the town bylaws, the risk of property damage should be non-existent. Another concern is the loud noises generated from fireworks and the impact it can have on their households, on their individuals, and their pets. There are many other generators of loud noises, such as loud trucks, cars, motorcycles, lawnmowers, thunder, gunfire during hunting season, etc. Residents can take protective measures with many of these loud noises. Unfortunately, the argument is that against fireworks, we don't know when they're going to be launched. However, we can say the same thing about some of the other loud noises that we have, such as the thunder, loud vehicle speeding through our neighborhoods. And I know the police department have put a lot of measures in place to reduce speeding, and there are many in my area. However, I still hear extremely loud noises of cars flying by my house, revving their engines with loud mufflers. So there are many of these noises out there, as well as during hunting season when the gun's going off. I am here today to represent a local business and explain the economic impact that this potential ban would have on our business. The sale of items such as fireworks attract customers well beyond our town limits. This brings consumers into our community who also purchase from other local businesses. Retailers such as ourselves have been and continue to face extreme financial pressures with rising costs across the board. It is becoming more and more difficult to operate with the ongoing pressures and regulations assigned to us. We are dealing with significant inflation, just like everyone in our community. We have gone through 3 minimum wage increases since April 2022. The rate has gone from $11.75 an hour on March 31st, 2022 to $14.75 an hour on April 1st, 2023, with another increase coming. It has been challenging operating during this inflationary period, and banning items such as fireworks that we sell would just compound it. The high inflation is putting economic pressures on consumers to find lower cost products in order to survive in these challenging times. The impact of this ban would jeopardize our ability to continue to provide the community with low-cost, high-quality products. The continued effort to support local businesses and grow our local economy would be negatively impacted by this ban. The consumers will find other ways to procure these items, be it procuring them online or going to other communities where they are allowed to be sold. Candy and soda contain high levels of sugar and have a huge impact on our healthcare system if abused. The same goes for alcohol, tobacco, cannabis. Does council ban these products, or do we simply work within the reality and environment we live in? We feel that the current bylaws are reasonable if they are followed by the residents. However, it would appear there is a lack of awareness and education with some of our residents, given some of the complaints raised tonight and some of the pictures I saw in the package. We would support informing our consumers about the bylaws and directing them to the town's website for further information. We currently actually have a fireworks safety document for our stores. Our employees are instructed to discuss it with any consumer purchasing fireworks at the time of when they're purchasing, and we also offer them a copy for the record, and it provides all the details of properly, safely using fireworks. We fully support a ban on selling fireworks whenever a fire ban is in place, and we actually currently take a proactive approach in communicating this to our stores in a timely fashion to make them aware of the ban and refrain from selling fireworks during this time. That is the prudent thing and the reasonable thing to do. However, we do not feel an outright ban is necessary. If council is looking at forming a committee to address the firework issue or consider making changes to the bylaws, we would be more than happy to participate and provide feedback. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Poirier, for your presentation. Item number 4 is a copy of the letter from Fire Chief Mike Boyle to the town of Rosse, re-fireworks, outlining 4 options of consideration. Council, I'm going to open up the floor for you to either ask questions or to move forward. Deputy Mayor Scryer, please.
Thank you, Your Worship. I do have a question for Mr. Poirier. Would it be okay for him to?
Yes, Mr. Poirier, would you please come to the mic? If questions are asked of anyone that made a presentation, please come to the mic so that you'll be heard.
Thank you. Mr. Poirier, have you ever considered replacing your current stock of fireworks with noiseless fireworks? And perhaps you can chat or tell a little bit about noiseless fireworks. I did go online and found somebody online that sells them, and I thought, well, if you can actually buy noiseless fireworks and it gives the same display a color, why wouldn't that be an option for retailers to look at? And
Yeah,
I'd like
absolutely.
to have your comments on that.
Yeah,
Thank
no,
you.
great question. Have we considered it? Absolutely. Is it something we're looking at? Absolutely. This is some newer technology that has come out, and the manufacturer that we currently deal with is actually in the process of implementing these. It has to go through testing. It has to go through testing with the National Resource Board. At this stage, it is looking like it will be 2025 by the time they get approved. Again, this is fairly new technology, but it absolutely is something we are looking at, and will seriously be, well, once it becomes available, it'll definitely be something that we will be carrying.
Yes.
Thank you for your answer. I wanted to go back. You said you sell 3 types of fireworks. And I'm not familiar with all the types of fireworks. I know what a sprinkler is.
Yep.
And it doesn't make any noise, I don't think.
No, the sprinkler.
So could you explain which fireworks you sell that's causing the noises? Maybe not that you sell, but that people
The
typically.
people do. Well, I can only comment on what our stores sell. So we sell a variety of different fireworks, different models and whatnot that have different number of shots that go in the air. The 3 primary ones, there's really, when I say style, there's 3 essentially 3 primary styles. There are the cakes. A cake would be, it comes either in a cylindrical cardboard with individual fireworks in it. You light it and it shoots multiple shots. That would be a cake. Then you've got the Roman candles. That's essentially it's a one shot, launches up in the air. It's like a tube. It's just one. And then the sparklers. Those are the 3 primary types of fireworks that we sell.
Thank you. I'm going to go to Councillor Miller.
Thank you, Worship, and thank you for all parties to come to discuss this. It brings us back to the same conversation we had about 14 months ago, I believe, when we were here. And at that time, I had proposed at least limiting it to 5 or 6 days that are normally like July 1st, things like that. I think we're going to get fireworks happen here, whether we like it or not. I've got 2 dogs. I understand everything that goes on. You know, I hate when they go off. But if I know they're going off 4 or 5 nights, I know I'm going to hear a few during graduation. I don't like it, but it's going to happen. As long as they're not at 2 a.m., I don't mind as much. The challenge of banning sale here is people just go to Kingston. You'll get them online. And some of the ones that, and I haven't shot off fireworks for about 6 years, but I would do that with the kids. A whole group would get together. We'd go to an empty lot. We would do it. Haven't done it for a long time. But what I was getting at is people brought fireworks in from the U.S. People bought them in from everywhere. So the ones that I was buying here were the small little ones that went up. Some people brought some that were just amazing, insane, crazy. I still am more in favor of, if we can't ban it, at least put it down to 4 or 5 days. I would like to put a ban, like say on the boomers or whatever you call them, the ones that go up and just make ridiculous noise and don't do anything. But by the time we hear one go off and you don't know where it is, it's the enforcements. It's a problem. I know some people live down by the river, so there's people shooting them off their boats. Like, who? Is that Kingston? Is that St. John? Is that Rothsay? Like, how do we get those people? And I've been down by people's houses when they go off, and you can hear that all up and down the river. So it's crazy. So I'm not naive. I don't think we'd ever be able to put a ban in that it would fully stop everything. But and I can only speak from my own personal. During COVID, I heard them all the time. At least where I live, I hear them a lot less. I think it's partially because Facebook, to be quite honest, people understanding that you gotta stop. Like, you can't do this all the time. Like, just be considerate of your neighbors. But anyways, I go back to, if we can't ban them, I would like to put in specific dates. And that got defeated at that time. So I'm just back to that same comment. Thanks.
Thank you for your comments. Councillor Luck.
Thank you, Your Worship. To build off of what Councillor Miller has said, I feel like we're having deja vu because we have been here before. I appreciate the offer to work on a committee to kind of make this right. I'm a little disappointed that the town of Rossay didn't see any value in working with their neighboring town to kind of come up with a solution versus doing their thing and then telling us we should do the same. So I'm a little disappointed in that. As you can see on any post online, as you can hear tonight, it is a very polarizing issue with lots of different moving parts. And I honestly don't know what the right answer is. I feel for both sides, and I don't want to be, in terms of passing something that, again, we're not going to be able to enforce. So I guess my preference, it goes back to my original motion like 14 or 15 months ago, where I feel it's an important enough divider in our town, and it's a topic that everyone has an opinion about, that we do it properly, and we have some really good feedback. But I feel like making an absolute decision tonight versus trying to find the best solution moving forward by bringing in the experts and looking at perhaps Councillor Miller's suggestion of, do you limit it by certain days? What does that look like with public education? I just feel like it's really hard to make a decision on the fly. And I feel like there's so many moving parts. My preference would be to actually put a working group together with the right people, so we can have people that are for and against, people in the community that sell them, someone from the fire department, to actually look at this properly and look at the evidence, and then come back to council with a solid recommendation that I think would potentially work for everybody. Again, it may not be an absolute on either end, but something that maybe everyone could live with. So anyway, that's my take on it.
Thank you, Councillor Luck. Your question, Councillor Thompson?
I'm just wondering if Councillor Luck is volunteering to lead the committee to look into that. Okay.
Thank you. I believe you can.
Thank you.
So as it stands now, I believe, did you want to put a motion to that?
I don't know if people have more discussion.
I don't see any lights on,
Okay.
that's why.
Okay. Just, again, I mean, I hear the concerns, and I think that we can do better. I am very concerned about safety issues. I'm concerned about, now with climate change and, just forest fires. I mean, it was very scary what happened a few months ago, where they were even talking about, driving your all-terrain vehicle in the forest. One spark could start something devastating. So I just feel like it's an issue that, instead of jumping to a conclusion, if we could potentially sit down and look at everything and then come back with a well-thought-out plan. So I guess the motion I would make is that we do put a committee together made up of the appropriate stakeholders. I won't maybe mention them, maybe we can decide. And I'm happy to sit on it. That we can look at the evidence, make sure that we have people representing all the different aspects, and then come back to council with a very thorough, well-thought-out approach to addressing the issue.
Thank you. So just so that we know, or we conclude this evening's discussion, and Councillor Donovan, I'll get to you in a second. It sounds as if this council is not banning fireworks, and that they are not banning the sale of fireworks, but that we're trying to complete or create a time when it would be most suitable for fireworks to be used within our town limits. That's my understanding. So I'm going to go to Councillor Donovan.
Thank you. I believe Councillor Luck had a motion. I would like to second that. Yeah, and I would like to speak on it as well, Karen.
Okay, so Councillor Luck, you've made a motion to create a committee to come up with a desired more balanced time when fireworks can be used within our community. And Councillor Donovan, you seconded that, and you have a comment on the
Yes,
question.
correct. Thank you. I'll start off by expressing my appreciation to everybody who spoke tonight. After doing a lot of my own research within the community and allowing people to reach out to me to provide their input or suggestions, either for or against, I've come to realize very clearly that this is a fairly even split down the middle for those who want them banned and those who want them to stay. But something that seems to come up often is more restrictions. I personally do not support a motion to ban fireworks entirely within the town because of this. However, I am nothing if not fair, and I believe both sides of this argument deserve to be heard and represented. It is not very often that we're able to come to a compromise on some very divisive issues like this. But whenever there's an opportunity to find a way forward that satisfies both sides, or at the very least produces a more acceptable outcome than before, I believe it's important to take that opportunity and run with it. So in saying that, I do support Councillor Luck's motion. Thanks.
Thank you. I'm going now to Councillor Miller.
Yeah, so I'll say, so on the question, so if possible, when we make the committee, I'd like to be on it as well, and I don't want to put maybe somebody out there, if you want to forward your name, and we've only heard from Mr. Hunt and Ms. Rice, so if I would like to see that we have an all-encompassing group and come back with some recommendations to see where we go from here. So you don't have to answer right now, but I'm just asking if you could send us an email. It's all on the website, and then because we're going to, if it passes, we do a committee. We need people from all camps. So if possible, thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Miller. On the question, Councillor Olson.
Thank you. I just wanted to just say that this committee is going to look at all options, whether it's a complete ban or a partial ban or a restricted use. And we've got in our report from the fire chief, there's all kinds of references to Dieppe, Fredericton, Oromocto, Riverview, Moncton, St. John, Edmundston, how they conduct their business. So it's just additional reference information. But I think that the committee would be starting with a clean slate, with no preconceived opinions, hopefully, and we'll finalize something that'll be working, hopefully, for everyone. Thank you.
Thank you. On the question, Councillor Luck.
Thank you, Your Worship. I just want to reiterate, because I just wanted to confirm that my motion was talking about a balanced approach versus a time, because again, to Councillor Olson's comments, I don't know what the outcome of the committee will be. I think that the committee needs to look at everything and look at the issues, perhaps, discuss even broader with residents and then come up with a solution. So I don't know what that solution is going to be. So I just want to make sure the motion doesn't elude that one way or the other, because I guess until we have that work done and know what we're going to move forward with, I don't know what that looks like.
Councillor Luck, I'll have the clerk, Ms. Snow, read the motion, and we'll go from there.
Moved by Councillor Luck, seconded by Councillor Donovan. Establish a committee made up of appropriate stakeholders, which she agreed to sit upon, with people representing each position to review all options and come back to council with a thought-out approach to deal with the issue of fireworks from a balanced perspective.
Thank you, Ms. Snow. On the question, please. Okay. Yes. Just 1 second, I have to ask for a point of order. We have a motion on the table. Is the public still permitted to speak?
It's up to council to entertain that.
Sure, go ahead. Come on up to the podium, please, and give us your name.
Hi, my name's Margot Clark. I live on the Neck Road. The only question I have around this proposal, which I think is a good one, is should your proposal include a timeline of when the committee should come together?
Thank you for that. Councillor Luck, it's your motion.
I guess I'm not sure if maybe I'm looking at you because Mrs. Jarvis, just in terms of maybe some guidelines, because you do a lot of our our bylaws up. I mean, it is, again, to do a proper, to get the right people at the table in terms of schedules and looking at the evidence. I think, you know, to give it due process, I think if in terms of putting a timeline on it, what would be reasonable to make sure that we're not rushing the process and making sure that everyone's been heard? Maybe, like,
you would have to establish your committee members first. So
right.
I don't know if you want this to go to nominating committee or if like you want to come up with the names to establish your committee. Normally, the nominating committee would do that and make those recommendations to council. Right? As your first step, and then you would
Right.
meet.
Okay. If that, nominating committee, yeah, names by next meeting, and then
Okay.
hopefully by then we can get a, you know, kind of terms of reference in terms of starting the work, and then hopefully by that point we'll kind of been able to dictate how long it's gonna.
September 5th, I believe it is, next meeting.
Thank you.
Anyone that would like to be on the committee, if you could submit your names through our committee section on the, for volunteering for our committees on the website, that would be most beneficial. That way we'll have the documentation there to refer to. And Mr. Evers, did you want to comment? Our planning technologist.
Through you, Your Worship. I wasn't sure if the comment was regarding a start date for the committee or a finish date for the committee. So I really don't know. I know that you would need some time to set that up, of course, and as you said, other people's schedules. So, you know, 6 weeks to the first meeting or something, 8 weeks to you don't want too long and you don't want too short. It is a fine line. So maybe once we have the volunteer list, we could go from there. Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Jarvis. Deputy Mayor Schreier.
I'm going to mention that I think you need to define the committee, and then the committee can work together on timelines and how everything works out for everybody on the committee.
Thank you. On the question, please vote now.
Councillor Bigger? Is that a yay?
I just find that from a balance perspective is a bit ambiguous. Like, I guess I'll move forward and assume that that's just saying, trying to bear in mind the differing opinions on the subject matter. But frankly, in terms of the language of emotion, I find it's a little too vague, frankly, but that's fine. Just I'll move ahead with that.
Motion carried 7-0. Thank you for being here this evening, ladies and gentlemen. Moving on to item number 6, public hearings. There are none. Minutes of the previous meeting. Councillor Bigger.
Yes, I move minutes be approved as prepared.
It's been moved by Councillor Bigger, seconded by Councillor Miller on the question. Please vote now. Councillor Luck and Councillor Miller.
The approval of the July 18th regular meeting minutes. Councillor Miller?
Motion carried 7-0. Thank you. Unfinished business. Item 8A, application to amend CPA agreement 615045, New Brunswick Limited, 33 Pettingill Road. Please come to the podium. Welcome. Please give your name for the clerk.
I'm Monica Kilpatrick, and I'm co-owner of Fundy Physiotherapy Clinic at 33 Pettingill Road.
Thank you. And your request this evening is to remove the existing restriction that property can only be used for physiotherapy clinic.
Yeah, so we are seeking to be discharged from the development agreement of 2005 to allow us to go forth and sell our building.
Thank you. There is a motion, unless there is discussion on it. Councillor Donovan.
Thank you. I would move the council set a public hearing date for September 19th, 2023 at 6 p.m. and refer to the Planning Advisory Committee for its written views. The request to have the CPA agreement associated with 33 Pettingill Road discharged in order to remove the restriction that the property must only be used as a physiotherapy clinic.
Thank you. It's been moved by Councillor Donovan, seconded by Councillor Thompson. On the question, Councillor Olson? Oh, sorry. Okay. Please vote now. We're having a few technical issues. Motion carried 7-0. Thank you. Thank you for being here. We'll probably see them on the 19th, I believe.
Correct. Yes.
Item 9, correspondence. In your package, there is the YSJ, the local airport request for community feedback on airline schedule changes. That is for your information. On to item number 10. Oh, there's a motion there, sorry. Oh, there we go. Councillor Olson.
Yes, I'd move that correspondence be issued to Air Canada, YSJ Airport Authority, Envision St. John, and copy to the Chamber, MP, and MLA expressing council's concern about the negative impacts the reduced number of flights at YSJ will have on reliable air travel for the greater St. John community, especially the business and local economy.
It's been moved by Councillor Olson, seconded by Councillor Miller. On the question, Councillor Luck.
Thank you, Your Worship. I just wanted to make a comment about the letter. In regards to, I guess, the rationale of why they're canceling some of our flights is because of the national shortage of pilots. And I'm just wondering if our letter can also, I guess, allude to solutions in that regard. It's similar to our medical crisis is, you know, I mean, if you only have so many doctors, you can only see so many patients. And I appreciate the struggle they're going through, but I think it's also important to hold, or I guess when we write the letters, to hold someone accountable for the training and development of the pilots, because that's really the fundamental reason why this issue is potentially happening. So anyway, I just wanted to bring that up as maybe something that we could allude to in the letter as well. Thank you.
So a request for incentives, perhaps?
Incentives, I'm not sure. I mean, right now with training in terms of commercial pilots, it's a fairly extensive, expensive process. So again, maybe there are some incentives or something that the Canadian government or provincial government can invest in to have more pilots so that it helps with the solution.
Thank you, Councillor Luck. Councillor Miller.
Thank you, Your Worship. Just more of a comment as well. So for perspective, I used to be an Air Canada Elite 75K, which means I flew a lot, over 70 flights a year. I don't now, and I won't now, and I won't be using Air Canada very much because they don't exist here. So the challenge I see, and this is just a real perspective, is not so much of the airline pilots. I know there's a pilot shortage, I know right now they're giving lots of money if you want to go to flight school, and it used to be 1,000 hours before you could become a pilot with Air Canada. Now it's like 500. So they do have a shortage of pilots. My issue is Moncton lost none, and Fredericton lost one. When I used to fly a lot, there was 5 flights a day to Fredericton, to here to Toronto. They were all full. They were talking about adding a 6th and putting a jet on. There was 5 flights a day, 4 flights to Montreal, and we also had like 6 flights a day to Halifax. There was not a lack of use of that airport. So it's very disappointing. I know they got a cut, but we took the brunt of it during COVID. We went down to 0. Even Fredericton had a couple WestJets going out, and Moncton kept stuff. We got 0, and then we finally got some back last year in September. They said they were going to add some for October, then it was going to be November, then it never happened. And now they just took them away. So it's, you know, I can only speak with my wallet, so, you know, I'm not going to be driving to Moncton or Fredericton to go fly. It'll be Porter or PAL Airlines or whatever exists here. So I'll use our airport when I can, but it's pretty disappointing that we're taking the brunt, and I think they assume, and they're rightly so in the respects, people will drive to Moncton or Fredericton. But if you're in business, you can't even get back and forth to Toronto in one day if you're using Air Canada, which is insane. So, thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Miller. Deputy Mayor Schreier, please.
Thank you, Your Worship. And as I had said before, I think this is a bit of a hard pill to swallow because it does limit, especially for business people, to do a one-day flight, a one-day meeting, and it affects everyone else too. If they're flying for leisure, they can't make connections. Going forward, the earliest on Air Canada you can get out of St. John is 11:20. And so you can't make connections to get to other cities till late afternoon, and sometimes long waits. I guess where I thought is I don't want to put all the emphasis on Air Canada either. I think that there's obviously a flight issue with St. John. And why is it that we're not getting scheduled flights into St. John that would be accommodating to our business sector as well as our residents looking for leisure vacations? So I think it's important that the correspondence to Air Canada to envision St. John and copy to the chamber lets them know that we're open for any business when it comes to an airline. Disappointed that Air Canada canceled? Absolutely. But what else can we do to generate an early morning flight or a flight conducive to, that would allow for people to get connections and business available in Quispamsis and St. John? Thank you.
Thank you. And just added to that, our region lends itself to being at the airport within 35 minutes from almost any point of the 7 municipalities within this region. So I think it is very important that we do take a stand. We understand there's a shortage of pilots, but we do have Flair. There are other airlines that we should be courting, and I think it is very important that we do stand behind this. So on the question, please vote now. Motion carries 7-0. On to item number 10, bylaws. 10A, review of bylaw number 025, a bylaw of the municipality of Quispamsis respecting licensing of taxicabs, ability to use licenses from other jurisdictions and offer taxicab services. Committee report from Councillor Bigger, who is chair of our Transportation Committee. And in attendance this evening, we have Dave Gaudette, owner of My Ride Taxi Services, and he had a request to speak. Good evening, Mr. Gaudette.
Is there an advancement, or are you going to advance for me?
Just let me know.
Okay. Good evening. My name's Dave Gaudette. I am the owner of My Ride Taxi and Airport Services here in the Valley. There are 2 taxi services in the Valley currently. River Valley Taxi is a new upstart that just been in operation since around January They're not here this evening. They're having some staffing issues. That was one of our main issues. Anyway, this is my ride taxi and airport service, and we'll just move right along. During the long night that was COVID, there's before COVID and there's after COVID. Before COVID, I had 5 vans, 2 24-passenger buses. I had a staff of about 12. I had 2 mechanics on account, and things were going great. COVID hit, we lost the cruise lines, we lost the airports, we lost the bars. We went from that staff of 12 to a staff of 1, me. We went from all of those vans and buses to buses were sold off just to create funds to survive the long night. The vans, 2 of them were parked, 1 of them was kept on the road, another one was sold. It was a dark time for us. We survived by cutting and by looking for new sources of revenues. We took on flower deliveries for a local flower shop. They went from 5 a day to 20 a day. That saved us from closing. The other company that was in operation at the time was Valley Taxi. Valley Taxi had, I believe at the time, 5 vans, a whole bunch of drivers. They were the big boys in town. They were my main competition. Where I was able to cut and reduce and adapt, they could only cut so much. They went out of business 2.5 years ago. That left 1 vet taxi in the entire valley. Now, I was watching earlier when the police were here giving their representation from 20 to 2022. There's no coincidence that those statistics for impaired driving in particular went up. There were no taxis. There was no bars, so people were drinking at home. There were no taxis. I could only operate myself from 6 a.m. to 6 p.m. and then only offer services to those passengers that needed me every day. I shifted my business phone off to an answering service. I changed my cell phone number, gave that number to the clients that I had so that I could get them to work. They worked everywhere from Tim Hortons to the regional hospital. There were doctors, nurses, Timbits, McNuggets, Shoppers Drug Mart, Superstore, Sobeys. Those people kept us alive. Well, when the storm ended and the dust settled, I was faced with some hard decisions. I had 3 vans left. I had no drivers. Getting drivers is terribly difficult because it is such a long process. It takes about 6 to 8 weeks for somebody who says, I want to be a taxi driver today, to you are qualified to be a taxi driver in 6 weeks. They have to go through medical exams, eye exams, background checks, criminal background checks, vulnerable sectors checks. They have to do a written test as if they were driving for the first time, and then they have to do a driving test in a taxi. And after all that's said and done, then we have to go see Sergeant Scott, get his blessing for that guy or gal to become a taxi driver. So it's a very long, drawn-out process. So after COVID was over, if I could find somebody to do that, it was great. And then I had to worry about, can I trust the guy with my equipment? Can I trust him with my passengers? Can I trust him with my money? Those are big things. This business, for me, is all about trust. Okay, and so when we talk about there were no cabs, the impaired charges went up during that period. That's exactly why they went up in that period. There were no taxis to be had. I wasn't operating at nighttime. I couldn't do 24 hours a day by myself. So I had to focus my efforts where they did the most good. So we'll move along on the presentation. This is our newest vehicle. We just purchased it about a month and a half ago. It's a wheelchair accessible van. We're now offering that service to the people of the KV and surrounding areas. I haven't even advertised it other than putting that wheelchair symbol on the side of it. And already I'm getting to the point where I think I need another one. So we're developing, we're growing, we're expanding. We're taking measures to cut down on wait times. And this is where this proposal, I don't know where it came from, don't know where it's going, but it was a real gut punch. I've invested so much of my life, so much of my efforts, time, and personal funds to get this thing going, to keep this thing going. And I moved into the community because I support the community. I was I'll be blunt, I felt betrayed by my community because suddenly all of my efforts were going to be tossed to the curb by bringing in St. John taxis, but letting other jurisdictions operating in my jurisdiction. Because I have absolutely no interest in operating in St. John. We are busy here in the valley. The valley is on the move. Every night there are dozens of people that need to get to places, and we are their primary source. If suddenly the city cabs were allowed to operate here, it would jeopardize our entire operation. And I say that dead seriously. I have an operating budget. Just my gas bill alone is $125,000 a year. My insurance, which is the real restricting factor on the operation of taxis, it's about $7,000 per vehicle per year. I actually pay cash for my vans, and I finance my insurance. That's how flipped this all is. Our profit margin is very low. As I said, I got $125,000 a year in gas bills. I got $35,000 a year in insurance bills. I haven't even paid my drivers yet. The drivers make more than I do, much more than I do, and I like it that way. If you're going to employ people, you have to employ them so that they thrive. And so I have to balance on a daily basis how many cars I'm going to put in the field versus how much revenue is going to be generated that day, because the pie is only so large. And if you're cutting it into 3 slices or 4 slices, 3 people have to give up a little bit for that 4th one to be in place. So basically what we've done is I operate on what we call a half-car principle. Yes? Okay. Prior to COVID, we had 2, sometimes 3 cars on the road during the daytime. Nighttime, 1 or 2 cars. On the weekend, we'd have 3 or 4 cars. Post-COVID, we're to the point now, I have 3 cars on the road during the daytime. I have 2 cars on the road at nighttime. And on Friday and Saturday nights, it's all hands on deck. We have every car we have available on the road. The half-car principle is me. I stay out of the fray until there's a backlog. As soon as I see a backlog, and I'm continuously monitoring, I pop out and I take up the slack. I bring down the load so that drivers can continue to move along. A trip to the city, for example, if somebody wants to go into Italian by night, it's going to take 40 minutes in and out. So that means anybody that's behind them waits 40 minutes for that cab to get back. So we try not to go into the city, and that's why I said I have no interest in operating in the city. We want to operate out here. Our focus is out here. So we've made some changes, operational changes. One of them is we track our passengers. We get rated, and we rate our passengers. If somebody continuously calls a cab and then calls every cab, including those in the city, and they come out and they're gone when we get there, we record that. After 3 strikes, they're out. We stop answering their call because they've inconvenienced the next 6 people down the road. So we've tried to work very hard to cut down on our wait times. We're expanding our fleet. We hope to add another vehicle in the coming months. But again, the restricting factor is the insurance. I have to make sure that there is the revenue there to pay for that insurance policy of $7,000 a year. But I wanted to come in and just let you know what is at stake. The city has no interest in coming out here unless they can come out here and grab long distance calls and run into town. And even then, they don't want to do that because they go to face the same 40-minute restriction I am. I can only make so much money per hour. And if I'm tied up on a $30 or $40 call in and out of the city, that means I missed out on $50 or $60 for the short calls out here in the valley.
Thank you very much, Mr.
Okay.
Cadet.
Any questions?
I would like to just remind council, I skipped over a motion regarding committee report from Councillor Bigger, who is chair of the Transportation Committee. So if we could just go to that, or Councillor Bigger, I don't know if you wanted to speak to that.
Yeah, thank you, Your Worship, and thank you, Mr. Gadet. If you'd like, I mean, it's perfectly fine, given that we have information afresh from our local stakeholder in the business here, to, if council has some questions that they'd like to, I mean, I can, you know,
Would you like to make your motion and we can
Sure.
speak to that after?
Yeah, that's fine, okay. Let's,
10A.
So the motion is that council receive and file the committee report from the Transportation Committee and the acting CAO Kennedy's staff report of July 6, 2023, and has recommended that no changes be made to our taxi bylaw in Quispamsis. And so that's the motion. I'll make that motion.
So it's been moved by Councillor Bigger, seconded by Deputy Mayor Scryer. On the question. Councillor Miller.
Thank you, Your Worship, and thank you, Mr. Gadet, for coming in. The context was at first just to see what's going on out there, right? So, and as you've stated, and which Mr. Bigger stated to us when we were in a meeting, is kind of what you just said. They're busy enough in there right now too. They're having the same challenges you are. Mm-hmm. I do like the fact that you're growing. I called somebody the other day, and to be fair, I don't know which one. My neighbor called. I don't know which, but we called, and they said, "We're too busy. Call us back in 15 minutes." So
That was me.
okay. So
I'm straight up with you.
yeah. So anyway, so it was okay. So we found a kid down the street to drive us. So I guess as a suggestion is, you are growing. You've shown you've bought a lot of new vehicles. You've been here for a while, which is great. Thank you very much. It's now about exposure. Who knows you're here? Is there a phone down by Amici's? Is there a phone down here? And you know, I go back to a long time before, you know, before there used to be these big things on the wall that we had. Yeah, and you'd pick up and you would get somebody. So I think with the population growing, especially in the valley, that you know, you're going to keep growing. I think maybe your competitor's going to keep growing, and maybe other people, because now between Rosse and Quispam, we're up to 35,000, close to getting 36, 37,000 people. And people do want to travel. We have more bars now. We have more restaurants, and people are much more cognizant than 30, 40 years ago about drinking and driving. As we heard Mr. Scott, Sergeant Scott, it still happens. But, you know, we're okay paying the $20, come pick me up and take me somewhere. So, so I think, you know, very happy that things going in the right direction, and hopefully that continue that way as well. That it helps everybody, yourself and your competitor, sorry, but whoever else is here and stuff like that, and just to make people happy. So, thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Miller. On the question, Councillor Olson, please.
No.
No. On the question, Councillor Donovan.
Excuse me. Thank you so much for your presentation. You know, I think it's important to note that my support of council's motion at our last meeting, you know, has nothing to do with intentionally trying to affect or harm your business. You know, I appreciate the services you provide to our residents, and as indicated over and over again, they're beyond important, your services. After the last meeting, I was labeled across Facebook as a business hater, which is simply not true. And it is a little bit hurtful, but nonetheless, it's part of our job. There are serious transportation issues within this community, and they need to be solved by this council. We need to solve them somehow, and that's just what I was trying to do. I was hoping to investigate ways that we could better serve the needs of our residents, And you seem like a great guy, and I've been told such from other residents. And I hope you can understand that the residents of Quispamsis are, for lack of better terms, our customers. And as a counselor, I am trying my absolute hardest to make their lives a little easier, however possible, just as you would for those in your cabs. So I appreciate your business, and I wish you the best of luck. Thank you.
Thank you. I'd just like to address, one of the things that we do on a daily basis is we count the number of outside cabs that we see in the valley. On average, we would see 10 to 12 cars a day. After your last council meeting, and CBC published an article, that 12 cars a day jumped to over 30 cars a day. What the residents heard wasn't, we're looking at bringing city taxis into the valley. They heard it's okay to bring city taxis into the valley. And that directly impacted us. Shortly, the impact lasted about 10 days. Things started to return to normal for us. Tomorrow morning, I highly expect that there'll be an impact on my business. Last long weekend, Friday and Saturday nights, which are traditionally our busiest nights of the year, I had cars go home because there wasn't enough business for all of them. So I had to protect the income of the two senior cars so that they could earn a decent night's pay. Otherwise, everybody would have been go home with about $50 in their pocket. That has never happened before since I started here in 2015. I guess my caution would be, I think it was Winston Churchill said, loose lips sink ships. Your comments very much impacted my business immediately. Thankfully, it was short term, and that's why I asked to come here this evening. I understand there's been a long I don't take this personally. There is a long-standing issue with taxis on Friday and Saturday nights. One of the things I did hear somebody comment about was that, if I'm downtown at a bar and I come home and I want the taxi to wait and take my babysitter home. Okay, that is an extension of an existing fare. There would be no taxi driver that I know of in the city or in the valley that would say, oh no, I'm sorry, I can't take your babysitter home. That's a non-starter. That's just not factually true. But thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Bigger, I'll go right back to you.
Yes, thank you, Your Worship. Just to reassure Mr. Gadet a little bit, from the discussion that was had, I don't know if you've seen this part of this report, but from the follow-up that did happen at the regional level, at the Regional Transportation Committee, there was zero appetite really for the idea of harmonization across the region, which of course would be Grand Bay Westfield and the city and the KV and out to St. Martin's and Hampton and whatever the regional or whatever the rural municipality is there that exists now. There was really zero appetite for that. And in fact, of course, there was some reference made to a comment by Jerry Lowe. It was published on the Huddle a year ago or more, where he indicated that there's a fraction of drivers compared to the city to what there used to be, and that the difficulty, the staff shortages that you reference, in terms of finding quality drivers and going through the process and whatever, that's pretty systemic, And indeed, there was someone from the regional committee who spoke of living in both Ontario and BC and said that it was always very difficult to get a cab at peak times, there. And so we very quickly came to understand that, it was a blue sky idea. It's a bit of an idea that in terms of trying to, as Councillor Donovan points out, well, maybe it would meet a need, but it's completely impractical. I think we did put the cart before the horse by not liaising with our local stakeholder in business first. But we've and I think we've covered that, and we're very, very appreciative for your insights and background on this. But in any case, just to reassure you, there is certainly no appetite. It's not something that's being discussed to my knowledge, going forward at all. And in fact, Ian McKinnon of the Transit Commission said that there's in the city that it's a non-starter for them, the idea of there's different licensing processes and, of course, mechanical soundness and driver, like recruiting drivers and the process of how that's done. The charging mechanism is different between you and the city, and how would you accommodate that, and so on. And so, anyway, just wanted to highlight those items from the regional
Very much
meeting we had.
Thank you, Councillor Bigger. Councillor Luck, I'm just going to go for Councillor Donovan's follow-up question.
Thank you. You mentioned a couple times that you've seen and it's impacted your business. Having St. John Cabs come out and work in the valley. From my understanding, it's illegal.
It is.
So if you have seen it, have you made an effort to maybe contact somebody to report that, or?
Absolutely not.
That might be a good
We conduct
step.
our business. We let them do their thing. I'm not one to run to Sergeant Scott. As a matter of fact, I speak to Sergeant Scott usually on an annual basis, just to touch base to see if there's been any complaints, any problems that I haven't been made aware of. We're too busy doing our thing to get involved in it, but we are cognizant of the fact that they are out here. I know the KV police have supported us and actually have, in 7 cases, pulled drivers from St. John that they've caught operating here in the valley unlicensed and issued them tickets or warnings. So I am aware that that's happening, but I let the police do their thing. I keep busy with my thing, and we do whatever we can together whenever we can.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Luck.
Thank you, Your Worship. Thank you very much for coming and presenting. It was a very informative presentation, and thank you for what you offered to the community. It is desperately needed. I think Councillor Donovan put it very eloquently in terms of us looking at our residents as our customers. And with a growing town, 5 cabs really, I guess I reflected on this a lot since we were called out on social media, the joys of being in the public eye. And I looked at even some of the things that, social engagements that I went to, and I don't even think about calling a cab because I know that you can't get one. So to Councillor Miller's point, I think, it's prudent to, start kind of building some brand loyalty because I think in terms of even the default that people either decide they're going to have a designated driver or they're going to get arrange someone else to drive them because historically they can't get a cab. And just with, asking around, because it was brought to us by a number of residents, and that's why we brought it up for discussion, is with a growing town, there's a huge gap in terms of accessible transportation options. And I know the long weekend, they had over 8,000 people over those 2 days traveling to Area 506, so that might be why you had less traffic, because I think a lot of our town was in at the concert. Yeah. Yeah, and also just to clarify about calling the police, is our current bylaw does allow St. John cabs into our town as long as they're leaving the town. So, you may see St. John cabs, so I just wouldn't want anyone watching at home to start calling the police because they see a St. John cab because they could be bringing someone to the airport for the one flight out a day. Or bringing them back in from example, like the hospital, they can, bring them. So anyway, but thank you very much for, yeah. Right. Do the same thing.
Bring them back.
Yeah.
But I can't pick up a
Right. Right. Yeah.
We operate in
Right.
we are too busy and contemplate that on Friday and Saturday. But this is where that we have several years that have been designated. We've gone all the way jumped in the first time.
Right.
And so we can't third time, so once it
Right. That makes sense.
that cuts down, I have the option of in town or the people out here that need us. So police the 6 over the 1. Monetary, we make more police than the 6. We worry about our passengers, you'll never have to worry.
Mhm.
That's our
Thank you, Mr. Cadet. Just on the question, I guess I've been the successful person as far as calling a taxi, and there we go. I've never had an issue. I've called in advance, and you've always given me the time frame when you were going to be arriving. So kudos to you.
called and they said, okay, I'll find out. Right up front, we're going to be an hour. And then
Thank you. On the question, please vote now. Motion carried 6-1. The nay vote was Councillor Luck. And thank you for the service you provide to the residents of Quispamsis. Thank you. Have a good evening. Item 10B, proposed bylaw number 064, a bylaw of the municipality of Quispamsis respecting flyer distribution within the town. Councillor Donovan.
Thank you. I would move the second reading be given to proposed bylaw number 064, a bylaw of the municipality of Quispamsis respecting flyer distribution within the town.
It's been moved by Councillor Donovan, seconded by Deputy Mayor Scryer. On the question, Councillor Luck.
Thank you, Your Worship. I just wanted to potentially request maybe an edit. I'm not sure if Council is aware that Rosse passed a similar bylaw last night with their third reading, and St. John, of course, already passed it. It's the same distributor of the flyers that are doing this whole area. And one of the differences, and I think in terms of just synergy, I know this was kind of added and it was kind of a rushed decision, but I think after reading a lot of the qualitative feedback on the survey, I'm wondering if there's value in omitting the driveway piece in ours, because that's where the big difference would be in relation to the consistency with St. John and Rosse. That way, the people that are upset about it, getting caught up in snow blowers, et cetera, it would be eliminated, as well as the concern that was identified in terms of seeing the sign. If you kind of force people to a mailbox or a doorstep, then it gives you more flexibility of where you place the sign because they have to get closer to the house. And again, Rosse and St. John are requiring that. So anyway, I bring that up as perhaps a potential edit just to keep it consistent so that the people that are delivering the flyers have one standard kind of operating procedure when it comes to flyers. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Miller.
Thank you, Your Worship. Mine just a question before we get to when we get to third reading. I still don't understand why you have to put a sign up and why you can't send an email and have your name blocked. I still want the flyers, but I'm just saying I don't know why we can't have the other way, because they know who they're dropping off because they know who's not getting a paper, right? So they have a list of people to go to. So there should be a way that they have a list of people to go to and takes people that don't want it off. That's just a comment. So thanks.
Thank you, Councillor Miller. Councillor Donovan, please.
Thank you. I'd read Mr. Roselle's flyer distribution survey and seen some of the results of it. And something that seemed to pop up quite often in that survey, and even on Facebook in the comments section of that survey, was, why should residents have to take the time to opt out? Why couldn't it be that residents, just opt in? Which it does make perfect sense, and I wish it could be like that. And I did some sort of soul searching, I guess you could say, and I noticed that, I don't know if it's the same because it's been a while, but I noticed in the municipality of, or the regional municipality of Halifax, council there of the time was planning on requesting an opt-in service, and their legal solicitors had advised against it because they found that they could control flyer delivery, but they could not inhibit it. And by making it opt-in, you're taking 400,000 people in the Halifax regional municipality, and those companies might only get, 40,000 people that actually take the time to opt into it. So I just on my own personal opinion, I kind of trust the lawyers for the city of Halifax. And I think maybe we might set ourselves up for something not very fun if we go down that route. I did see a lot of the questions about where do we post a no flyers sign. I thought those were very valid because they are ugly. I wouldn't want one on my driveway. Do you have to, in Quispamsis, we don't have the luxury as in the city of St. John or the city of Moncton, city of Fredericton, where there are a lot of apartment complexes and garden homes and townhouses that are directly on sidewalks that you can place a little sticker. We don't have that option. So if you place a sticker on your doorstep by your house, and your driveway is 30, 40 feet away from, or the end of your driveway is 40 feet away from your front door, does that mean you now have to place a stake in the ground and put a sticker at the end of your drive? I'm very confused on what that actually means. So I would love to have a little bit more clarification on the sticker idea. I'm not totally against it. I would just like to know how that's gonna work. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Donovan. Mr. Kennedy, please.
Thank you, Your Worship. I don't think we're going to have to worry about the nuances of signage and opting in and opting out if we remove the driveway, and which is fine. I did bring that up at the last council meeting just because we were uncertain whether council was looking to ban the delivery of flyers throughout Quispamsis. That will basically happen if they can't drop them into the driveways. They're just not going to deliver them. It's not efficient to have to drive up the driveways or walk up the driveways, so it will just end. And I'm pretty sure that the folks in Rothsay know that that's the case as well. So I don't think we need to fret over the details because it will just organically end because it's just not going to work for the drivers. So I think if we take driveways and we're sort of taking it out after we'd put it in, that's fine. And just on a point of clarification for third reading, we didn't want to do that tonight because we would have to read the entire bylaw. And if we wait until the next meeting on September the 5th, we would be able to post it and then we could just do the summary rather than reading it in its entirety this evening, Your Worship.
Thank you, Mr. Kennedy. Councillor Luck, please, on the question.
Thank you, Your Worship. I just wanted to address Councillor Miller's question. And again, this is anecdotal based on feedback from residents, but I think the challenge has been is that residents call to cancel their flyers and then they continue to get them even though they call numerous times. So I think that this was kind of a way of saying, okay, here's another, option. So once you've called 15 times and you still continue to get the flyers, and some people are lucky that they call and they actually stop the flyers for a few months and then they come back. So it's really, the proposal was, and I think that's why St. John and Rothsay went this way, is it gives people, kind of a full opt-out where there's consequence. If, they've called and called and called and then they post a sign and they still get them, then we can hold them accountable. And I think that that's why hopefully most people can continue to call and try and cancel them, and maybe the flyer distribution people will be a bit more receptive if the bylaws are in place. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Miller. On the question, we have a motion moved by Councillor Donovan, seconded by Deputy Mayor Scryer. On the question.
This is real quick. I was saying, if you get rid of the driveways, what are you going to do in the winter? Throw it in the snowbank? So
No, you have to put it on doorstep. That's
yeah, that won't happen. So
right.
Driveway's fine for me, but anyways.
All right. Well.
Okay.
Go ahead. Ask your question.
Yeah, just clarification. If you want the driveways in or out, that right now it's in the draft bylaw, but if you want it removed, that should be in the motion, and we can have it removed for the third and final consideration.
Is that okay with the mover and the seconder? Councillor Donovan, are you okay with that?
I'm so confused. Can somebody please explain that? I was listening. I just don't know what's going on.
Through you, your worship, the current draft bylaw before you does permit in driveways as per the discussion from the last council meeting, but this evening there's discussion now to be similar to the City of St. John's and the town of Rothesay to now remove the driveway as an area where they would be permitted to drop the flyers. So it will be.
Councillor Donovan.
Thank you. My only issue with that is, yeah, in theory, it would end them. I'm not entirely sure why we don't just, why we're beating around the bush. Why don't we just pull the plug and say no flyers at all? Because that's theoretically what's going to happen. I'm a little concerned that we do have people employed in this community that deliver flyers, and I do have over the weekend I actually heard a story from somebody, and it was different. It was in Moncton, and it was a family friend in Moncton, and they were a flyer delivery person, and the city of Moncton had decided to take away driveways, so you had to walk from house to house and drop it off on the doorstep. Great idea, but what was happening was the paper deliverers, they were not getting paid. They were getting paid per paper or per flyer, per packet, whatever. So what would happen is these people would make, they'd be going from making $12 an hour to now they literally have to walk to every single house and make like, $5, $6. And obviously it would just die out. So I guess I'm super confused why we're just gonna let it die out. Why we don't just cut them right now and get it over with? If somebody would like to help me along with that.
Thank you, Councillor Donovan. I'm going to go to Acting CAO, Mr. Kennedy.
Thank you, Your Worship. I'm not in the flyer business, but if I were, I have a pretty good idea as to how I could resolve this, and that would be to have the flyers delivered through Canada Post. You can't stop that, and you can just throw them in the blue box if you want, and I wouldn't be surprised if that just happens organically as well. I'm sure that the folks at Brunswick News, Inc., now Post Media, will be bean counting and figuring out a best way practice that they can do that from a cost-effective point of view. But I think effectively, and from what I've heard through discussions with some colleagues in Rothesay, that if you don't allow the driveways, it's effectively a ban because they're just not going to do it anymore. And then we'll probably see that these will start popping up in people's community mailboxes before long. Thank you, Your Worship.
Thank you. On the question.
Sorry, I'm holding everybody up. The question, I forgot my question. I had it. It wasn't important enough. That's okay. Let's just vote.
Okay, on the question, it's been moved by Councillor Donovan, seconded by Deputy Mayor Scryer. We are moving second reading be given to the proposed bylaw 064, a bylaw of the municipality of Quispamsis respecting flyer distribution within the town. And we can do second tonight, and on September 5th, we can do third reading.
To the motion, there was an addition. If you just refresh your motion.
The addition was and remove driveways as a permitted location to distribute flyers.
Councillor Donovan.
Thank you. So I noticed we had sent a letter to Brunswick News, which is technically Post Media, I assume. And I don't believe they ever got back to us, did they? So, I mean, in my own personal opinion, if they haven't taken the time to get back to us, something that is a key part of their business, and obviously they don't care a whole lot about it either. So I'm leaving it at that. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Kennedy.
Thank you, Your Worship. And just to further echo Councillor Donovan's comments, we sent that to a bunch of people to ensure that somebody would have seen it, and there was no response, and they did not respond to Rothesay's letter either.
Thank you, Councillor Luck.
Thank you, Worship. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to create more of a, more confusion. I mean, there's some really good points that were mentioned tonight. I was just pointing out that our bylaw was slightly different, and I didn't know if there'd be some value in the consistency of St. John, Rothesay, and Quispam all having the same, piece of legislation. I'm fine with either. Again, I don't think, I think people enjoy the flyers, and I think it is 50-50. There's some people that want them, some people that don't. So, I don't want a bylaw to all of a sudden restrict it for everybody. So I don't mean to confuse the issue, but if that means if we add or if we take out driveway, if that technically means we're going to ban them, I don't know if we should keep it in or not. But I was just trying to find a consistent kind of implementation so that the flyer people would know that ours was the same as Rothesay and St. John.
Thank you, Councillor Luck. Okay. I'm going to ask the clerk to read the motion one last time. You're on.
Sorry. Through you, Your Worship. Moved by Councillor Donovan, seconded by Deputy Mayor Schreier. Second reading be given to proposed bylaw number 064, a bylaw of the municipality of Quispamsis respecting flyer distribution within the town, and remove driveways as a permitted location to distribute flyers consistent with the City of St. John and Town of Rothesay's recently adopted flyer bylaws.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. On the question, please vote now. Motion carried 6-1 with a nay vote from Councillor Miller. Thank you. On to item 10C, proposed local improvement bylaw 11-2023, consideration of first and second reading. Councillor Donovan.
Thank you. Let's get this going. I would move that first reading be given to the proposed local improvement bylaw number 011-2023.
It's been moved by Councillor Donovan, seconded by Councillor Thompson. On the question, please vote now. Motion carried 7-0. Second reading. Moved by Councillor Olson, seconded by Councillor Thompson. On the question, please vote now. Motion carried 7-0. Moving on. New business. Item 11A, Gondola Point Park, Phase 12-B, Council Assent. Deputy Mayor Schreier.
Thank you, Your Worship. I would move council grant assent to the Gondola Point Park Phase 12B subdivision plan, subject to the execution of the standard subdivision development agreement, so the plan can be stamped and signed by the town clerk and the development officer for registration.
It's been moved by Deputy Mayor Schreier, seconded by Councillor Bigger. On the question, please vote now. Motion carried 7-0. Item 11B, Hamel Developments Limited Subdivision, Integrated Development Zone, Council Assent. And we have in attendance, would you please give your name for the clerk? Brad Lockhart. Good evening, Brad. Welcome. Thank you for your patience. You may speak to your subject if you wish. Okay. And Councillor Donovan.
Thank you, and I'm so sorry, Brad. You sound really tired. Probably more tired than I am. I would make a motion that council grant assent to Hamel Drive Developments Limited subdivision plan Phase 1A and Phase 1B, subject to the execution of a standard subdivision development agreement. So the plan can be stamped and signed by the town clerk and development officer for registration. And all conditions of this Section 59 development agreement remain in effect and unchanged by the subdivision development agreement for these phases.
It's been moved by Councillor Donovan, seconded by Councillor Miller on the question. Councillor Bigger?
Yes, thank you, Worship. I just wanted to say it's exciting to see this moving forward. It's been kind of hovering around on and off for a number of years, and it's I'm very delighted to see it going ahead. Of course, as I come up the arterial, as I do a lot, you see the little emergency road going in behind there for emergency services, and so I'm very pleased to see this moving forward. So congratulations on that.
Thank you, Councillor Bigger. Deputy Mayor Scryer.
Thank you, Your Worship, and I too have noticed it, all the movement going on, and I'm just wondering what your time schedule's looking like. You know, are you delayed a little bit with material, or how are you moving along?
Good, we've applied for a building permit for the multi-residential, and then once we get our PIDs, then we'll actually be able to do construction.
Thank you. Good luck.
Councillor Olson.
No.
No. On the question, it's been moved by Councillor Donovan, seconded by Councillor Miller. On the question, please vote now. Motion carries 7-0.
Great, thank you.
Have a good evening. Thanks for being here. Item number 12, reports. Councillor Donovan.
Vote to, I'd make a motion to receive and file the reports.
It's been moved by Councillor Donovan, seconded by Councillor Olson. On the question, Deputy Mayor Scryer.
Thank you, Your Worship. I just do have a question on the rail safety resolution. And if somebody could clarify that for me, because they are looking for signatures, and whereas the Rail Safety Week. So I'd like to have a little bit more information on this if I could, please.
We will go to Mr. Kennedy, please.
Thank you, Your Worship. Some number of years ago, the clerk probably knows exactly when, the municipality of Quispamsis decided to stop making proclamations and that type of whereas document. So basically what we've decided to do now with those sorts of things is just put them in reports. They're there for council's perusal, and generally reports are met with a receive and file motion. So the mayor would not be actioning that resolution or signing any documentation to that effect, Your Worship.
And further to that, Deputy Mayor, I did send off an email. I receive emails from CN Rail on a regular basis, and I did send an email thanking them for their letter and their request and told them exactly what the CAO has just said. Councillor Donovan.
Thank you. I just noticed the letter from Mr. Mazerol from UMB, commemorating Pride. This past week was obviously the Pride Parade and Pride Week within St. John. I just wanted to, and I thought it was important to give a big shout out to St. John Pride and all the volunteers who organized that. It's certainly important to our community. And as I said the other day on Facebook in my absence from the parade as I was traveling, I said, well, each of our communities have various sets of priorities. One thing that we all share is our commitment to furthering equality for all, and I think that's super important to point out. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Luck.
Thank you, Your Worship. I'm wondering, just to build on Deputy Mayor Schreyer's question around the Rail Safety Week, if we could potentially do a post on Facebook just to bring awareness to that initiative? If that,
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yes. We'll make sure that our communications manager has that up. Thank you. On the question, it's been moved by Councillor Donovan, seconded by Councillor Olson. To receive and file reports. Please vote now. Motion carried 7-0. Business arising from committee of the whole, there is none. Moved by Councillor Olson for adjournment, seconded by Councillor Donovan. To close session, yes. On the question, please vote now. I hope everyone finds joy in the coming days, and the weekend is just around the corner. Yes, we said that. Motion carried 7-0. Have a good night, everyone.
Take 5.